Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video we're going to make it our best effort to finish up everything that's left and allow our users or the people playing our game to know when they've incurred an invalid move and when they've actually won the game. So with that we're going to tie up that loose end we had in the previous video with the whole X. For some reason I don't know if I'm just using it wrong or something, but mathutils.random supposedly should be exclusive of the input parameter. It should start at 0 and be exclusive of what's there. However, for some reason I was getting inclusive problems when I was trying to set up this, and so I was getting a nums.removeindex 0 problem where there wasn't enough numbers in here because the whole is never being put in place. So I actually had two little numbers in here and I was trying to fill an entire 16 by 16 or try to fill all 16 boxes rather than just 15 or board size times board size minus 1 spaces, and so that's why it didn't have enough numbers in it. So that's where that null pointer is coming from. So I found out you can have a start index and an end index, and we're just going to subtract one. I still have no idea why that's considering it inclusive of the 4, but now it should just be between 0 and 3, 0 and 3, and so we can move forward with that. So our whole is now being randomized, and we can see that being, if we just run it real quick, it should work just fine now, and you'll see now it's in the bottom left, and now it's in the kind of bottom center. It's just going to keep moving around the grid. Now it's randomized, all the numbers are randomized, and so we're providing a legitimate puzzle for people to play. And it'll always be a different game every time you play, and that's kind of what you want for your user, is just a unique experience, especially for puzzle games. It's kind of hard to come up with your own puzzles, so if you can get some sort of randomized element, that will just make your game last so much longer for someone who is interested in the kind of puzzle you have to offer. So with that, let's get in. Let's see, what was the last thing that we left off with? Was just getting this whole X and the numbers shuffled. Oh, right, so we need to get the solution going, and we might want to get that in before we set up our label widget to inform the user of what's going on in the game. So we're going to have a private boolean solution found method, and that's going to take in no parameters because we have global access to this button grid 2D array, and it's just going to start with int id check equals 1, and we're going to go through every button in the grid. So again, another 2D for loop. So int I equals 0, I is less than board size, I plus plus 0, that should be 0, there we go. J is less than board size, J plus plus. And now comes a little bit of the tricky part where first off, this should return false if it ever reaches there, and we need to check each button is in order, and each button is in the right spot and is counting up by 1, so it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 in that order, and wherever my mouse was should be their locations. The whole must be in the bottom right. It does not count as a solution if the whole is anywhere but the bottom right, as that's when the grid is consistent and in line with each other. So like you want to be able to have the 15 right here if everything else was in place, and then sliding that's when it'd be in the solution. This is the solution shape. So we just need to make sure we're checking it according to those restrictions. So we want to have a check to make sure that we're not checking a null ID. So that's going to be button grid ij does not equal null. If it does, well, that means we hit the end too soon, or we hit the null location too soon, so that should just return false anyway. And then if button grid ij dot get ID, this is where the get ID part comes in handy, is equal to this ID check plus plus. So every time we go through, we're going to be doing this once the button isn't null and the button is equal to the current ID check 1, and so let's say it is, it'll continue. Then the ID will increment, so the next time we come through, okay, the button next to it should be a 2 because ID check was incremented, and it'll just kind of keep doing that until it hits 15, or rather board size times board size minus 1, because it'll never get to that 16 element because that's where the hole gets put in. So we can now just say if ID check equals 16, then return true. So at this point, if it equals 15, we've added 1 to ID check now, and so ID check should be 16, and so if everything checked out, we've hit the end, and ID check is 16, we can return and get out of the solution found. So however, if we come across a number that isn't appropriate for the ID check, then we should also return false. And I know there's kind of a lot of return falses here, but you need to catch those locations or those restrictions in all 3 places. So now that we have our solution found method, we can just implement it right up here when we set the in the init grid, and we're setting the button click listener for each button in our grid. We can do if solution found, and that's a method that returns a boolean again. Then we can say system.out.println, and that's going to be solution found. Okay, perfect. No, we don't need an else statement for that, so we'll just be checking for that. And just to make this easier on us, I'm going to comment out the randomness of our game and just set the hole to be the bottom left for now, and we're not going to shuffle the numbers. So this will be a good way to check to see if our solution checker is working properly. So we can go to play, and you'll notice that because we haven't clicked anything, the solution check or the solution found method wasn't called. It's only when we click something that it's ever ran. So I've moved the 15. We don't have any indication that the game has been won, so that is taking care of that part where I said the hole must be in the bottom right in order to have an accurate solution. So let's move the 15 back one more time. And perfect. So it went through and it found all of them in order and in line, and the hole was in the bottom right, and so everything is working out properly for us, it looks like. So yep, perfect. Now what we want to do is get our label going to be able to inform the user about certain things they're doing in the game, such as invalid moves and whatnot. So we're going to have a info label, private label, and this is just going to be label info, and we can create it down here in a new method that we're just going to call initialize the info label private void init info label. Okay, and then that's going to be label info equals new label. That's going to start with welcome, click any, what should we say there? Click any button to begin. And that's also going to take in skin, just like our button. We're also going to set it to the default skin as per our UI skin.json, where we have a default parameter set, or a default skin style set to just use the default font that was passed to it. So back to this. We can continue by setting up some of the information about it. So we'll set the position to be, I have that located at 310 or 15 and 310. And then we also want to set the text alignment. This is useful if you want to center, right, or left align your text. You can just use the handy align object that's provided in LibGDX. I believe that is in, where is it? Align. Yeah, so Scene2D.utils.align, and that'll allow you to align your text to center it. The next thing we want is to add just a little bit of a fade-in effect for the text when you first run the game. Info.add action. Again, this is just for visual enhancement. So this is going to be sequence. Alpha is going to be 0. Delay by 0.5. And then we're also going to have a fade-in effect of 0.5. It's going to be a simple fade-in. Okay, and then we want to add it to our stage, and that'll be it. So add actor, and that's going to be label info. And all labels are is it's just a simple way to represent text while maintaining actor attributes, or like so you can apply actions and whatnot to them, which is pretty handy. Instead of just like rendering a bitmap font to the screen and having weird scaling issues or whatnot, you can just load a font that way. So now that we have added our label into the game, we should also call init info label and our show method right here, init info label. Okay, and let's run it one more time just to make sure we got that in place. Okay, it's a little off center. Let's see, click any button to begin. So I don't remember it being that off center initially. Where do I need it? So click any number tile to begin. I wonder if that actually sets up the center for it. I had a different text in there and it made it center it. So okay, so yeah, I'm just going to set this to about 25 on the X. Okay, that looks a little bit better. We'll deal with that later. So now that we have a label that we can present the user with stuff, we can throw stuff in here instead of the system.out.print line. So else statement will be if they've incurred a valid move where they're not on the same whole X or whole Y row or column. So that means they clicked a button that can't currently slide. That's what this else statement is going to be for. And then in here, we're going to have the label change according to whether or not the solution was found. So if the solution was found, then we want the label info to clear its current actions, and we want to set the text to solution found, label info dot add action, give it a nice fade back in action. And let's see, so that's going to be, what did I have that to? So sequence, alpha 0, I believe that was that, and then I had a delay of 2 seconds, and then I had a fade out of 2 seconds also with interpolation POW5 out. I just really like to use that type of interpolation because it just looks nice to me. So now we can kind of take that again, and honestly this could just be a method on its own, but we're only really using it in 2 places. Invalid move. We'll just make that a little bit shorter. So now anytime the solution is found, it'll tell us, and anytime we click on a location that isn't possible to move around, it will also inform us that we've done that, which is really, we didn't have to add too much for that. So that was, I believe, everything we really needed to add. So let's check these out real quick, see what happens, and from there we can kind of maybe run through a play of the game and make sure everything's working. So welcome, click any number tile to begin. We'll click that, and invalid move is not showing up for some reason. Oh, okay, whoops, yeah, so this is actually alpha should turn back to 1, and then it should fade out again. Okay, that was a little catch there. So invalid move, and it should fade out. So select invalid move, yep, perfect, good, looking smooth, got nice transitions, and solution found, and it's holding true for a little bit longer just because that is kind of a important part for the user to know that they've actually won the game. So I might even just make that delay 3 seconds and fade out after 2. So let's see. I suppose now that we have our game all kind of thrown together and everything's looking finalized, we can get rid of this batch drawing, and we don't have to indicate what screen the user is on anymore. We can go to loading screen again. We can just come down here, remove that, main menu screen, remove that, and let's see, splash screen, yeah, remove that, and now we should see what our game looks like going through a full playthrough. There was one thing I needed to change in here. Let's see, main menu screen, and we actually want this to go to our splash screen. Main menu screen is good, loading screen is good, splash screen is good now, slide button's been done. And then we also want to add the randomization again back in real quick, and then shuffle the board. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, there's our splash screen. Fade out, buttons come in, and I realize now we don't have a title for a game. That's just a slight overlook. I don't really have any material for that. You can just put some text in there or something if you really want this demo project to have some sort of thing going on for it. We'll click our play button, and it says, welcome, click any number tile to begin. Okay, so that was an invalid move. So now you're learning from the game, and most people, I'm sure, should recognize what kind of game they're playing after they see the first tile actually move. So we want to move these up. I'll just kind of run through real quick. Probably won't play through this whole thing, but probably shouldn't have separated those either. Get those over. Let's see. I know this game might not be as fun as other games that you've seen people make, but we will get into more advanced material later on as I get more time for that for you guys. So don't worry about that. Like I said, we might be looking at Pong or something sometime soon. There's generally going to be a lot more content available as my video library starts picking up speed. So I'm going to want to slide this around this way. Okay, well, yeah, I think that's good. So you guys get the point. So we got 1 through 8 taken care of, and you can kind of see where we're going, how you play that game. So you just want them in order, and once you get them all in place, then you've won the game. So simple enough. Hope you guys enjoyed going through that. A few hiccups here or there, but that's kind of normal. Again, I do kind of wing a lot of this code as I do these tutorial videos, so you just kind of have to bear with me. Nothing's ever going to be perfect on every machine, so there's kind of expected problems here or there. But with that, you have your first working game utilizing Scene2D Asset Manager, and you got a basic understanding of viewports, how the resizing happens for stages. Speaking of which, you might want to make sure that you include stage.getViewport.update in every one of these resize methods. And we learned how to use UI skins, making sure we set the input processor to the stage so any stage actors can receive input from the user, and that there's no ghosting between screens. We learned how to kind of set up a basic application, understanding this really basic, not like exactly a singleton pattern design, but just kind of having single instances of each screen at the moment. I will have an extra that incorporates actual design, singleton design, with private constructor and using a get instance method rather than having just creating like single instance objects of these screens. So it's also going to incorporate a game screen manager, which is a little bit overboard for this kind of game because we only have like so little screens. However, having a game screen manager will really help you in the long run for other larger projects. So I think that might be a good idea to kind of show you guys how to get something like that set up. We also learned a lot about disposing. Always make sure to dispose objects that need to be disposed of in their respective screens and locations, and make sure you dispose of them in the right order because objects that have dependencies will need their dependencies to be disposed of first in order to dispose of the actual like over containing object. And let's see, we also learned about free type font generation and using that to create our own custom bitmap fonts using the free type font generator library that you can include into your project. Oh gosh, what else? And again, this is mostly just a recap. We can probably even turn that to just be like, I don't know, I feel like 0.8 is a reasonable number. We have a functional game, we just don't have a title put into our game. And let me see. So got our assets. Yeah, I think really that is about all that this tutorial covered. And we learned about stretch viewports, fit viewports, and all sorts of things. So yeah, we actually covered quite a bit of information. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the videos so far through this series. I'm glad a few of you guys have stuck it out with me. Things have really been picking up speed for my channel, and it's been great to see you guys are enjoying the content I'm putting out. Feels really good that things are actually working for people. So again, if you have any questions, comments, any concerns or anything, or just want to say thanks, definitely post it in the comments. I love to hear what you guys have to say. So subscribe for more. I got a whole lineup that I'm actually planning right now, like a time frame schedule and everything. So there's going to be a lot more content coming now that I'm done with the school quarter for the summer, and things are going to start moving a lot more quickly on my channel. I'm also going to be kind of updating things here and there, so keep an eye out. So with that, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the extras that I plan on putting out soon.